As the host spoke his name and the curtain slowly opened, Arvin took a deep breath and stepped forward. The audience greeted him with polite applause, unaware that within minutes, many of them would be wiping tears from their eyes. The judges looked at him with curiosity. Simon Cowell leaned back in his chair, calm and unreadable. Sophia smiled gently. Howie tilted his head, already trying to sense what kind of performer stood before them. Heidi watched closely, as if she felt something emotional was about to happen. When asked where he was from, Arvin proudly said the Philippines. The crowd cheered warmly. He explained in soft, careful English that he came from a small town where life was not easy. Music, he said, was not just a hobby for him. It was his escape. It was the one thing that stayed with him during nights when there was no electricity, during days when food was limited, and during moments when giving up felt easier than dreaming. Arvin shared that he grew up in a family that struggled financially. His parents worked long hours just to make sure there was something on the table. Sometimes, he said, they had nothing but hope. His voice trembled slightly as he spoke about his mother, who believed in him even when the world did not. She would tell him to sing whenever he felt sad, to let his heart speak through melody. She believed that one day, his voice would take him somewhere he had never been. Simon asked a simple question. Why America's Got Talent? Arvin paused, swallowing hard. He said this stage represented opportunity. In his country, many people have talent, but not everyone gets a chance. He wanted to show that Filipinos have voices filled with soul, pain, love, and strength. He wanted to make his family proud. And if he could, he wanted to inspire other kids like him who were singing in small rooms, dreaming of big stages. The theater fell quiet as Arvin prepared to sing. No background story could fully prepare anyone for what was about to happen. The music began softly, almost like a whisper. The first note left his mouth, and something changed in the room. It was not loud. It was not dramatic. It was honest. His voice carried a gentle sadness, the kind that comes from lived experience, not practice. As the song continued, Arvin closed his eyes. Every word felt personal, as if he was reliving every memory he had just shared. The audience leaned forward. People stopped shifting in their seats. You could hear the silence between the notes. His voice grew stronger, fuller, but never lost its vulnerability. It was the sound of someone who had cried quietly for years and finally found the courage to let it out. The camera moved to the judges. Sophia's eyes were already glossy. Heidi pressed her lips together, clearly emotional. Howie's usual playful expression was gone, replaced by pure focus. Then the camera found Simon Cowell. Known for his tough critiques and emotional control, Simon sat unusually still. His eyes did not leave Arvin for a second. As Arvin reached the chorus, his voice soared. It was powerful, but not in a show-off way. It was powerful because it was real. The kind of power that comes from truth. The lyrics spoke of dreams, of pain, of holding on even when everything tells you to let go. For many in the audience, it felt like Arvin was singing their own stories back to them. Halfway through the performance, something rare happened. Simon Cowell blinked slowly, his jaw tightening. He looked down briefly, then back up at the stage. His eyes were wet. The man who has judged thousands of singers, who has seen every trick and heard every style, was being touched on a deeply human level. It was not about perfection. It was about connection. Arvin did not know this. He just kept singing. His hands shook, slightly as emotion took over, but his voice never broke. If anything, it became more beautiful. The final note lingered in the air, soft and fragile, like a prayer. When the music stopped, there was a second of complete silence. Then the theater erupted. The audience rose to their feet in a standing ovation. Applause thundered through the room. Some people were crying openly. Others smiled through tears. Arvin stood frozen, shocked by the reaction. He covered his mouth, overwhelmed. For a moment, he looked like that same boy from a small town, unable to believe what was happening. The judges stood as well. Sophia clapped with tears running down her face. Heidi nodded, clearly moved. Howie applauded with a wide smile, shaking his head in disbelief. Simon stood last, but when he did, it meant everything. He clapped slowly, deeply, with emotion written all over his face. When the applause finally settled, the host spoke, but his words were almost unnecessary. Everyone knew they had just witnessed something special. Simon was the first to speak. He took a breath, clearly choosing his words carefully. He said that in all his years on the show, moments like this were why he kept coming back. He admitted that Arvin's voice did something rare. It made him feel, and that, he said, is the most important thing an artist can do. Simon went on to say that technical perfection can be taught, but what Arvin has cannot. He said the pain, the honesty, and the emotion in his voice were impossible to fake. He looked directly at Arvin and told him that his audition was not just good, it was unforgettable. The camera caught Simon wiping his eye, a moment that quickly became iconic. Sophia spoke next, praising Arvin's courage. She said it takes incredible strength to stand on such a big stage and share your soul with strangers. She told him that his story and his voice touched her deeply, and that she was proud of him. Heidi added that Arvin's performance felt like a gift, something pure and rare. Howie smiled and said that this was the kind of audition people would talk about for years. Arvin could barely respond. He thanked the judges, the audience, and his family back home. He said he hoped they were watching. His voice cracked as he mentioned his mother. He said everything he sang was for her, for his family, and for everyone who ever felt invisible. Then came the votes. One by one, the judges said yes. The final yes felt like a celebration rather than a decision. As confetti did not fall and buzzers did not ring, something more powerful filled the room. Validation. Hope. The knowledge that dreams, no matter how far away they begin, can find their way to the biggest stages in the world. As Arvin walked off the stage, still in shock, the camera followed him backstage. He collapsed into tears, surrounded by the crew. It was the release of years of pressure, fear, and uncertainty. For the first time, his voice had been heard not just by his family or his town, but by millions. Back in the theater, people were still talking about what they had just seen. Some said it was one of the most emotional auditions in recent memory. Others said it reminded them why they fell in love with music in the first place. Online, the moment would soon go viral. Clips of Simon Cowell tearing up would spread across social media. Comments would flood in from around the world, especially from the Philippines, where people would celebrate Arvin as one of their own. But beyond the views and reactions, what mattered most was what that moment represented. A young man from a small place stood on a global stage and proved that talent knows no borders. That emotion needs no translation. That sometimes, one honest song is enough to change a life. Arvin's journey on the show was only beginning, but his audition had already secured its place in history. It was not about winning a competition. It was about winning hearts. And in that moment, as Simon Cowell stood with tears in his eyes, it was clear that Arvin had done exactly that. If this story moved you, remember that behind every voice is a story waiting to be heard. Never underestimate the power of honesty, passion, and courage. Dreams do come true, sometimes in ways we never expect. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more unforgettable stories that remind us why the world needs music, hope, and voices like Arvin's.